You are now watching the longest and the most detailed narration and commentary style tutorial video of SimCity 4 by CodeGX422.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my 5th episode of my tutorial on how to play SimCity 4. Time really flies and I've completed many episodes for all of you. I hope that y'all have learned a lot more about how to play this game, and I feel very privileged and happy to have helped many of y'all learn how to play this game, especially when I see positive comments and feedback and even likes for my video. I feel very happy, and I really hope that after all these tutorial episodes, y'all can make the city of your dreams. Right now, I'm back here in my neighboring city. As you can see here, there's this new railroad here that extends out to the outskirts of the city, and I purposely extended it out all the way to another neighboring city that I haven't created. This is because in the last episode I created a railway road linking to this city, Industrialville, from my main city, so it was shut out here, and it ended up destroying all my shopping the buildings. So right now I have extended the railroad and destroyed some buildings, so I'm hoping that it will grow. And right here we can see a freight train station. A freight train station will probably help my farms down here to reduce the freight trips, as they'll be able to transport their goods over here to the station before the freight trains help to transport their farming goods over to the other side of the city. So this will boost business, hopefully. And down here we can see some train stations that I built too. About this distance would be ideal for train stations. You do not need to build them too close together, as train stations have a radius of about 5 to 6 zones around them. These train stations will probably help to stimulate business and probably like link the two cities and their economies together in a way that it allows more Sims from both cities to probably go shopping. For instance, for my main city here, my Sims can come here and enjoy some shopping, and vice versa, and also probably to find jobs in both cities. But the main aim of my tutorial today is actually to stimulate demand in the neighboring city, because I realized that when I finish my 4th episode of my tutorial series, the demand for my all my RCI zones in the main city is very low. So I ended up going to the neighboring city to grow the city a bit. This will help to stimulate the demand of the RCI zones in the main city. For instance, if you let the city here grow and you grow some high-tech jobs here, it will cause the demand of the commercial offices, the jobs in the neighboring city, to rise. This is probably because the goods, the high-end, high value-added goods that the high-tech jobs produce, like pharmaceutical goods, can be sold by these large offices and corporations, which will probably spur their business and then encourage more of these large corporations to grow. And similarly for commercial shops, if you grow commercial shops in this neighboring city, it will stimulate residential housing in the neighboring city. This is because there will probably be more amenities for the residents to settle into the city, as they will find it more convenient to shop and find jobs. And finally, if you build manufacturing industries in your neighboring city, you will help to stimulate the commercial shops, because the manufacturing industries produce lower end goods that are more cheap and affordable, and all these goods will be transported over to these commercial shops where they can sell the goods, like all these boutique shops and light shops here. So it's very interesting how the different zones in each city will help to stimulate demand for other zones, and how the dynamics of each city work, and how the economies of both cities interact with each other. So it is imperative that you have neighboring cities to help you. So I finished my first part on my neighboring city. Now I shall go back to my main city. Right now I'm back in my main city down here. As you can see here, my city has grown quite a bit, and there are a lot of nice medium wealth buildings popping up, like these small condos over here, and there are also some nice commercial offices like this model INC, or how do you pronounce that? This is probably because of my high education levels here that help to promote a new growth of new commercial offices and manufacturing jobs, which in turn boosted the Sims income and allowed them to stay in nicer houses like this manor here that is constructing right now for those very wealthy Sims. And the bad thing about what I did just now is that even though I went back to my neighboring city in an attempt to develop my neighboring city by a bit, we can see here that the demand for my zones are still very weak, be it the residential demand or the industrial demand. For the commercial demand, it is still quite strong. I can still see some offices growing out. But one thing I did is that I have raised the taxes of the commercial offices by a lot, to 9.6%. This will probably stifle the demand for commercial offices by a lot. This is because I really want to rush to build a new city center in my city, which I hopefully want to show you later if it is possible. I shall show you how to build a city center in your city with probably some nice commercial districts, and hopefully when the city matures you can see some pretty commercial offices coming up, like this building here, Bunch Engineering. So one thing, but before we actually start on expanding the city, we must actually run the city by quite a while if you don't have enough money. This is because right now I have a net income of about $1,000, and you need a lot of money to expand your zones for a new region of the city. In my second episode, if you have remember, I zoned this region of land with only about $30,000 or so, and then I ended up taking a loan, which wasn't a very wise decision. So I must make sure that I have enough money so that I don't need to take out any loans before I start to construct the city. So I've actually run the city for about 4 or 5 years so that my income rises by a lot. You can also play the You Drive It missions or the little buttons here to earn cash like $20,000 here. But either way, make sure you have enough money before you zone new zones. Before you embark on your ambitious plan to create a new region of zones that will sprout out some really nice buildings like this empty grass and forest patch down here, we must ensure some conditions for zoning new regions. I would say that there are 3 main conditions. There's a demand for the zones. Right here, as you can check the RCA demand, there's a weak demand for residential zones and strong demand for commercial zones, and you shouldn't bother zoning industrial zones because there's not much demand for now. And the next thing is, when you zone your zones, you must provide the correct supply for the demand. So you must zone residential and commercial zones as I explained last week. So later when we zone our new zones, we must be conscious and put in the right zones in the right proportions. And also we must have enough money for our new amenities and the zoning, the roads, and all the expenses we need to pay. As you can see here, I've already saved enough money by running the city for many years, so we are all good to go to create a new region of growth and hopefully a city center when the city grows to a larger amount. So without further ado, let us start with the construction of the transportation infrastructure that we are going to have in our new region. We shall start by building some roads to demarcate out the rectangular plot of land that I want to build my new estates, and I shall link them up to the industrial estate that I already have for better traffic. And there are many types of transportation facilities that you can build in the city. Besides roads, you can place bus stops, subways, railway tracks, and so on and so forth for your city. But for this tutorial, I shall be focusing on using bus stops and railway stations for my city, because I've already developed some railway tracks around my city, and I shall now expand out the railway tracks by building more tracks around this rectangular plot of land. And you must note that when you zone railway tracks, they must bend at a 45-degree angle in order for the railway tracks to converge together, and it's impossible for you to build them at right angles and then still allow them to converge together and work efficiently. So take note of that. And right now I am building pieces of road to cut out the rectangular plots of land, but because of the nature of the slanted railway tracks, sometimes it's difficult for us to cut through the rectangular plot of land, so you must experiment and find out where are the best regions to plot these roads. And right now I'm also plotting avenues in order to ease the traffic, because as the city grows and your city gets very dense, you need to build better transportation facilities to prevent congestion and allow your sims to get to work and the places that they want to go to. But avenues are larger, so it may be difficult for me to put them all around the new plot of land, so I shall be only placing a few avenues. And a few more things about transportation infrastructures that I want to explain is that you should actually create an integrated transportation system by placing the different types of transportation facilities beside each other. For instance, you should actually place the bus stops beside the subway or train stations they have for maximum efficiency of the transportation, where the sims can actually change their modes of transport easily to get to their places of work and interest, so that the city will not heavily rely on cars only to get to where they want to get to and cause a lot of congestion. Why do we need this mixture of transportation facilities? This is because for bus stops, they are actually very small and they are very easy to plot in dense regions for maximum benefit, but their radius coverage is smaller and they also have a smaller capacity, so you must complement them with larger train and subway stations where they are more expensive and larger, but they have more capacity. So you should place the bus stops near the subway or train stations in order for the sims to benefit most from these transportation facilities. And when you build all these facilities, later on you need to check that their passenger usage is high in order to benefit the city, or else you should demolish them, because all these transportation facilities are very expensive. And right now, as you can see, I'm zoning some industrial estates. In fact, I finished zoning them and I have started to zone the residential estates around the edges of my city that I have now. And I want to explain to you how to zone these various zones, which I felt that I haven't really covered in the past few tutorials. Firstly, as you have marked out the rectangular plot of land that you want to zone your land, you need to link it to the main city, which I've already done, so that this new region will be connected and integrated with the main city. And you can put train stations also to facilitate transport between the entire city, and place them in strategic regions in order to provide maximum traffic, because train stations are expensive and you need them to be efficient and good to go. And I would say that for residential zones, you should place them close to the commercial zones, because this will allow the sims that live in these residential homes to easily find commercial shops and offices that they can work in, and also benefit from the services that commercial shops provide. As you can see, I've zoned a thin strip of commercial shops. I like to do this because it will create a very nice effect of having a whole stretch of commercial shops where I can imagine all the Sims all shopping and enjoying their life here. So it's not that bad that your new rectangular plot of land has these small little strips of land for you to place light commercial regions. And at the edges of the city I shall place residential zones, and the small strips of land I shall place light commercial zones. And if you haven't realized, I do not really place commercial zones beside industrial zones. This is because they do not really complement well with each other, and sometimes I see people doing that, but it's not really a good idea because industrial zones only need to be linked with residential zones, and commercial regions need to be near to residential homes in order for them to have good business and good links with the Sims who are finding jobs. And so if you place them together, they do not have much of a complement. In fact, the industrial zones will cause pollution and decrease the land value of the commercial regions, such that the commercial offices may not even grow. So you should actually place the industrial zones far away from residential and commercial zones, but then do not place the residential zones too far from the industrial zones, so that the Sims will be able to move to these industrial regions to work. And so in this situation, the train stations will help a lot in allowing the Sims to get to these industrial zones to work. And as you can see now, I'm putting recreational facilities right after I've finished zoning and plopping the transportation facilities. But take note that you do not put too many of these recreational facilities because they are very expensive. For a plot of land like this, your recreational facilities, I feel, should not exceed more than $200 until you can confidently say that the region is making a lot of money and that there are a lot of dense and high-rise investments coming up, such that you can actually place these recreational facilities that increase the land value. And right now I'm zoning my water pipes to ensure that the city has enough water. So whenever you zone a new piece of land, you always need to ensure that the city has all the amenities that they need, be it water, power, and also enough garbage capacity, which I will check on it later. And right now I'm putting bus stops conveniently along the thin strips of commercial light commercial shops that I have placed. And the good thing about placing bus stops in these thin strips is that you do not disrupt the big residential zones that I have plopped, because when you place bus stops on the residential zones, you realize that the zones actually get cut into many small pieces, which is not very good. And right now I'm raising the taxes of the commercial regions such that I will stop the growth of the commercial shops. And as you can see, the commercial offices will stop growing because I want them to be restricted for now, so that I'll be able to grow a region of commercial offices later. But this venture may not be successful, so we shall see for now. And right now I have this very small piece of land that I've decided to put some residential housing, especially because there's a school near to it, so the Sims will be able to benefit a lot from having a good school and probably have a high education level in the future. And building more residential homes will probably also increase the demand for commercial and industrial regions that I will zone later on. And one more thing is that I explained to you that the commercial zones will benefit if they are near the residential zones. You can actually try putting some light commercial regions beside very dense residential zones for the maximum effect. For instance, if there are small shops beside these huge high-rise residential buildings, it will allow the Sims to go downstairs to shop, and as a result, all these little shops will have a lot of customers, which is very good for their business. And as you can see here, I'm actually checking all the capacity requirements for my city. I'm checking that my city has enough garbage capacity for the larger zones to grow, but the waste to energy plant usually has enough capacity to sustain a population of around 60,000 or so. And I've checked the power and water supply just now, and they are more than sufficient for me to run my city. And as you can see here, I'm checking my zones now to compare the medium wealth and the low wealth residential zones. As you can see, the medium wealth residents, the graph hasn't really crossed the low wealth residential, the sims. This means that the sims are still generally not very rich, and not many of them have moved to middle wealth houses, which might happen later if the city become more prosperous, and so does the sims. And you need to check that all your educational facilities are running up in order, that there are 5 red apples, which means that there's excellent coverage, and this will help you to create a constant skilled workforce for the city, and a skilled workforce will be able to find better jobs that they are able to get rich, and hence buy better houses. And what I'm doing now is actually I'm changing the taxes, the rates for the different zones. This is because I realized that my high tax rates may be the reason why my demand is so low. So you must always check your tax rates. Try to put them below 8.6 or something. And if you realize the city is not growing, so you must go and check your tax rates, especially for manufacturing and high-tech industries where they are very sensitive to the various tax rates. And right now I've finished zoning the commercial regions that I hope will grow some very nice shopping districts and even high-rise commercial offices. But this will probably take quite a while, even a few years for the offices to grow. And as you can see here, I'm placing some recreational facilities in vacant lands around my region for the land value of the region to rise, but do not place too many of these commercial regions. I mean recreational facilities, because they're expensive, and I've lowered the demand for the commercial. I've lowered the taxes for the commercial offices in order to encourage their growth. And so as you can see now, there's an explosion of commercial shops and offices coming up, and so are the flats that are coming out also. As you can see, the new region is growing really well. We have a strong demand for many zones, and my income is clear ahead of the expenses that I'm currently owing. But because of the fast city growth, as you can see now, there's a strike in my city, a school strike that I've warned you about. This is because I forgot to check my capacity of this elementary school, so you must raise the funding up to at least more than 80 students than what we are having now. I mean, the capacity must be 80 more than what we are having now, so that the school will be able to sustain a growing population and continue to educate more sims and also for them to get better jobs. As you can see here, there are many beautiful high-rises, medium wealth high-rises coming up now, and the city generally has more high-rises, as we saw in the past few tutorials. So the city is actually running very well, and in fact I've actually taught you all a lot that what needs to be learned about the about SimCity 4. So as you can see, sometimes I have problem trying to explain what I want to say, so pardon me for that. Actually, I have a piece of paper that I've written down notes on that help me to guide me on on what to say when I do these tutorials. But actually, if you haven't realized, I've taught you most of the things that you need to know about building a new city in SimCity 4. You just always need to do consistent checks on the water. As you can see, I need to put a new pumping station to increase the capacity of the water and provide enough water for the growing population. And I also always need to check on the power levels and the garbage levels. And as you can see here, the education levels are dropping because of the new sims that come in, so they'll take some time for them to be educated. And there's a strong consistent demand for commercial regions. So we shall wait for the city to continue expanding and redevelop itself. You can place some parks to reduce the effect of the pollution by the new manufacturing industries that are probably too close to the commercial regions, and perhaps I shall probably dezone some industrial buildings later if the pollution gets too bad. And as you can see here, the health coverage of the city is 0 because I haven't built any hospitals, but because of the high net income I have, I've decided to build a hospital right now to benefit the Sims. And after looking at the data view for the zones, I've decided to build the hospital at the center of the city. As you can see here, the coverage of the hospital is very huge, so if you place it at the middle of the city, it will benefit most Sims. But there will be a problem later because the population of the city is very high, so we may have some problem coping with the new patients that are coming in. So right now I can anticipate that there will be more than 3,000 patients coming in, so I've dragged the patient funding to 3,200. As you can see here, there's probably more patients than capacity, so we are in a bit of trouble, but in any case the hospital is still working fine. And as you can see, I can build a new research lab, but it's too expensive, so I shall save it to later. And to complement the hospital, I have enacted the free clinic ordinance, which will only work if your health coverage of the city is good. This will help the Sims to be in better shape and health and increase their life expectancy, their quality of life. So finally, I've constructed all the civics and the amenities for the Sims to enjoy. As you can see here, it's very worrying that the patient population is rising, so I may need to put a new medical center in the future for my Sims, because the hospital may not be able to sustain such a huge population. And as you can see, many rewards are coming in. Because of this fast forwarded video, I have no time to talk about all this. We have country clubs and we have a new statue of myself that you can probably place in order to increase the mayor rating and also encourage some high wealth residents to settle in. And right now I shall dezone some some manufacturing industries that pollute in order to reduce the pollution. And as you can see, there's a strong demand for residential zones, so I shall put some residential regions for the city to grow. And if you hold control while zoning the residential or commercial zones, you can create large pieces of 3x3 zones or 2x3 zones for large buildings to grow. So the city is good and running. So right now we shall zoom in and see what is happening in my city. As you can see, there's a very nice building here, and there's a lot of small little offices, even though I wish that there were more large commercial offices, but they'll probably take some time to grow. And as you can see, the Sims average income is consistent, and all the passenger stations are really working very well. And pardon me for this very rushed commentary, because I speeded up the tutorial video so that it doesn't take too much of your time. And right now I'm increasing the taxes for the dirty industries so that I can clear them out. And I'm very confident of doing this because 1, I have enough money, and 2, there's a strong demand for industrial manufacturing buildings and high-tech buildings. So if you demolish these dirty industries, which are easily recognizable, you will be able to reduce the pollution. And a region that is filled with manufacturing industries will always be less polluting than a region filled with dirty industries. So it's the lesser of the two evils. And manufacturing industries also provide more jobs and income for the Sims, so they are recommended. So we shall demolish all these dirty industries that are still prevalent in my city. And you need to learn how to spot these buildings. So right now I can see that the industrial plots of land are very bare, and I've lowered the taxes of the manufacturing and the high-tech industries in order to promote growth. As you can see, they're growing really quickly, and there's a huge drop in residential demand, probably because there are less jobs for the Sims, especially for low-wealth Sims working in dirty industries, probably as some low-paid labor. So as you can see here, the dirty industry, the number has fallen considerably, and in turn the manufacturing and high-wealth industry, the number of jobs is rising. So this will help the Sims to become more prosperous as I phase out the early dirty factories of the past in my city. And as you can see here, the residential, the houses are fairly consistent. I'm sorry if this tutorial is pretty rushed, because I've actually fast forwarded the video, and sometimes I find it hard to talk as the city runs so quickly and I'm doing so many things at once. And right now, as you can see here, I'm going to replace all my police stations, because now my city is a very large region, so there's more benefit in having a larger police station to cover a huge region. And now I'm analyzing my entire city to place larger police stations. Larger police stations have a larger coverage and more economies of scale, so it's actually cheaper to plot them. And for commercial zones, it's very important for you to put police stations, because they are very sensitive to crime, and if there's very high crime rates, it will lower their land value and decrease the desirability for commercial offices that bring a lot of money to the city. And similarly for industries, they are very sensitive to fires, so you need to provide good fire coverage for industries so that they will be able to grow well. And as you can see here, after some experimenting, I finally placed a police station that nicely covers the bottom left region of my city. So right now I shall place some more police stations to cover my entire city, which will probably cost a lot of money. As you can see here, my expenses are almost exceeding the income, and in fact they are going to exceed. So I must find new ways for me to earn money, or else my city will be losing a lot of money, especially after I place the hospital in my city. So right now the city is all good, and I've almost covered the things that you need to learn about SimCity. Especially when you build new zones, it's always a repeated process of putting new transportation facilities, then zoning the new zones. And as you can see here, there's a healthcare strike because the city has grown to a sizable population, so you need to build a new hospital for the healthcare coverage to be better. So right now I should put a new hospital. They'll probably cost a lot more, and I need to find new ways to get enough incomes in order to finance my hospital, or else I'll go broke. And as I've explained earlier, building a new region of buildings in SimCity is always very simple. It's always the same steps of laying out the transportation facilities, then you place the zones, then you place the bus stops and the train stations or subway stations, then you lay out the water pipes and ensure there's enough power, enough garbage capacity. And finally, when the city grows, you can decide slowly to put in the civics. I usually put in the civics in this order. I'll place the schools first, then I'll place the police stations, and then the fire stations, and finally hospitals, because hospitals are very expensive and you are always never sure that you have enough money to put in hospitals unless your city has a very high net income. And this is probably going to be the main things about SimCity 4. Now you just wait and watch for the city to grow, and do your daily routine maintenance check of the city to ensure that all the facilities are up and running. And as you can see here, there's always new developments coming up. So right now I shall tweak the the tax rates by a bit in order to get more money to finance my healthcare facilities, because as you can see here, I'm losing a lot of money in my city, so it's a huge problem here. So you always need to monitor the funding of all your educational and healthcare facilities, because if you provide excess capacity, you end up wasting a lot of expenses. A huge proportion of the expenses come from schools and hospitals, and also from transportation facilities. So you must ensure that all these are running really well. As you can see here, I have this blank piece of land, so I decided to put in new dense industries for it to grow. And usually for dense industries, they will grow well beside each other. So it's always best for you to put the industrial estates near the edges of the city, where not only your city can get the jobs but also benefit neighboring cities. And this will also help the industries to lower their freight trips and make it easier for them to transport their goods, so that they'll be able to expand and grow more quickly. As you can see, most of my industries are always at the edges of the city. And as usual, do the necessary steps of putting in the transportation infrastructure, and then you need to check the water supplies and so on. And I realized one thing is that if your city is losing a lot of money and you have a strong demand for industrial zones, do place more dense industries in order for you to recoup the losses, because manufacturing and high-tech industries provide a lot of money for a medium-sized city, since the commercial offices do not really grow very well. And as you can see here, my income is quickly balancing out because of what I've done. And I'm checking my traffic volume right now. As you can see, there are more cars being used because the Sims are getting more rich, or because there's a lack of efficiency of the transport coverage. You probably need to put more bus stops and subway stations at the right places, especially beside high-rise buildings, where a lot of Sims will take the public transport. Especially for low-wealth residents, most of them will take the bus stops, and take the buses and subways or train stations because they are poorer. So as you can see, when I put new residential zones, especially large ones, I need to put in bus stops as well. And as you can see, I'm demolishing the manufacturing industries. I hope that high-tech industries grow, and the city is going very well, and the environment status is improving because I've demolished some manufacturing estates, and I have also removed a lot of dirty industries in the past 10 minutes or so. To conclude my tutorial today, I have taught you a lot of things on how to manage and grow your city. Firstly, I have taught you how to manage your neighboring city, and how you need to use the railway lines that you have built from the main city and extend it all the way out to the various zones in your neighboring city in order to connect the transportation infrastructure of the two cities. And remember to build freight train stations and also passenger train stations to boost the economy of both the cities. And when you expand out the zones of the neighboring city and you encourage the growth of, for instance, dirty industries, you will also help to boost the demand of other zones of the main city. And one good thing about having a neighboring city is that it will help to suck up all the demand for the dirty industries. So as you can see here, I've already mainly phased out all the dirty industries that I used to have, and right now they are all replaced by high-tech and manufacturing industries. So my environment status of the main city is a lot better than it was. As you can see here, the air pollution is a lot lower than it was about 50 years ago, because now all the dirty industries have moved to the less developed neighboring city that I have. And so neighboring cities are very helpful in boosting the economy of the main city, and also in reducing the demand for dirty industries in the main city. And of course, other zones that grow in the neighboring city will help to boost demand of various zones in the main city as well. And when you go back to the main city and you want to expand a new area, I have explained to you that we need 3 conditions. One is that you need enough funds from the city, and you also need a good net income, and you need to ensure there is a high demand for the RCI zones. And I also taught you all today on how to zone new regions. Zoning new regions is actually a very simple task in SimCity 4. It usually involves the same steps. The first thing you need to do is to choose an area in the city that you want to zone the new regions, and the next thing is that you zone out the transportation infrastructure. As you can see here, the roads, avenues, and the railway tracks and the train stations that I place here. And the next thing is that you will place the zones in the special order in a fashion that you want to, but there are some guidelines on how you should place your zone. For instance, the residential zones should be close to the commercial zones, and commercial zones should not be mixed with industrial zones. And of course, do not place industrial zones too near to residential zones unless you are confident that non-polluting high-tech industries will grow. And besides that, I've also taught you all that after zoning all these regions, you should place some recreational facilities beside all these zones that you have placed in order to boost the land value. But the thing is, do not place too many of these recreational facilities, because you are not very sure if the new regions will make a lot of money. And when the city has finally started growing and there's substantial net income, then you can slowly place these recreational facilities as you wish to. And of course, after plopping all these regions and having prepared everything for a new region to grow, you will also need to check out the water pipes that you have here. Check that all the new zones that you planted have water supplies. Check that your city is connected in terms of power supply, and check the graphs that you have enough supply for the new regions to grow. And also check that you have enough garbage capacity, and if you think that the city will grow to a huge amount, then perhaps you should put some new garbage facilities. But a waste to energy plant is sufficient enough to supply a medium-sized city. And also, lastly but not least, you can build civics to boost the land value and the desirability of your new regions. For the new regions, for especially residential regions, I would like to build schools first, and then if there's any commercial regions, I'll build police stations. If there's any industrial regions, then I'll focus on building fire stations, because these 3 are the more important civics for each zone respectively. And hospitals are expensive, so I do not usually place them in a hasty decision unless I have a lot of money. And we have also learned how to rearrange the facilities like the hospitals in an orderly fashion in order to prevent overcrowding. You must always check that they have enough capacity to run. And also, you need to check your schools. Let's see here. And after checking your schools, you should also check your fire and crime coverage. Check that your fire and police stations are covering the regions well, and that there's not too much overlap, so that you do not waste money putting too much police stations. And I would say that every opportunity to save up expenses will accumulate, such that it will cause you to save up a lot of money for the city and have a nice net income. For instance, you can see here, due to my wise fund management, I have a net income of about $1,000 a month, but at the same time having a good health and education coverage, and also safety coverage, among other things. And after you have completed all this zoning and routine checks of power and water, this is usually a repeated process for SimCity, you can of course lavish and reward yourself with the rewards and opportunities, the deal that you see here. And often or not, there will be pop-ups that tell you that you have won some building because the sims are satisfied you, and so you can plot these buildings in order to boost the desirability of certain zones, or increase the mayor rating, or reduce the population capacity, among other things. For instance, I'll have a television studio here, and also I have a mayor statue down here which I place. But take note there's a monthly maintenance cost, so do not rush to build too many of these structures. And among other things, I've actually a courthouse in the rewards deal that I haven't placed because I'm not confident that I'll be able to fork out the $300 monthly cost that there is, and in the first place I do not even have enough money to pay for the courthouse. And of course, these are the main things that you have learned from my tutorial in SimCity 4. And I realized that I've almost taught you all the things that I know about SimCity 4 in these 5 episodes of the tutorial. And if there's any questions or anything that you want me to explain my tutorial, please kindly drop me a comment, or you can private message me through my through my YouTube account, because I prefer to keep myself private, and I will just entertain YouTube comments for now. And I hope that you all have enjoyed my tutorial, even though I will say that this episode will be the most disorganized and confusing tutorial, I would say, because I realized that I have taught y'all most of the things I know about this game, and many a times all you need is just some experience in playing this game and finding out how to play this game, among other things. So you should play this game more and try to experiment, trial and error, such that you create a successful city that you want to. And do not be afraid of any failure, because as the cliche saying goes, after failure comes success. And of course you have to put in hard work to play this game. And one tip I would like to offer to you, if you're having some serious problems balancing our budget, and you have high demand for high-tech or manufacturing industries, is that you should zone some industries such that more of these factories grow, because high-tech industries will provide a lot of income for a city, but without much need for civics. You just need to place water and power supplies to them, and you can just put fire stations to cover their safety needs. So it will actually provide the most net income compared to residential zones, which are more demanding, that need educational and healthcare facilities. So you could consider building a lot of high-tech factories and regions, as you can see here. But of course all this will only be possible when your education level is high, which is why at the start I've already placed a school in order to boost my city's education level. And of course, from time to time, check out all these civics to ensure that they have enough capacity but yet not use too much of the city budget. And one more thing is that you can check the train stations and bus stops such that they are efficient and having a good service capacity. If not, you can demolish them, as I'm doing right now, because bus stops and train stations are expensive, and if you happen to find a lot of them, they are not working very well, you can demolish all of them in order to save up a lot of money. So that's all for my tutorial this week. I hope you have enjoyed my tutorial, and I'm sorry for the long tutorials that I'm having. Somehow or rather, I always end up dragging the tutorial by a very long amount, but either way, I hope you still enjoy my series of SimCity 4 videos. I guess this will be the last few episodes that I'm making, because now the city has almost grown to a a developed state where there are a lot of high rises and there's not much for me to explain. And thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope to see you soon, and probably someday or rather I'll try to build a city center, because as you can see here, the demand for commercial offices is extremely high. So I shall see what I can do about it. Thank you everyone, and sorry for this disorganized tutorial. I hope you have still learned a lot of things today, and see you soon.